Both Wales and England will be looking for some positive momentum ahead of the Rugby World Cup as they meet on Saturday. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. Wales versus England. It is a Rugby World Cup warm-up game, first for both teams. It's at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff. It's on Saturday the 5th of August and kickoff is 5:30 BST. Let's have a close look, or quick look, at the two teams. We'll have a close look later. So starting with Wales, front row, they've got Domachowski, Elias, Azarati. Then the second row is Jenkins and Rowlands. The back row is Chunza, Morgan and Wainwright. Halfbacks Davies and Costello. I think they say Davis, right? Davis and Costello. Right wing is Dyer. Centres Llewellyn and North. Left wing is Dyer. Centres Llewellyn and North. Right wing is Rhys Sammet and Halfpenny at full back. On the bench then they have Roberts, Smith, Thomas, Carter, Plumtree, Thomas Williams, Bigger and Grady. Onto the England team then. So England front row is Genge, Blamire and Stewart. Second row, Ribbons and Martin. Back row, Ludlam, Pearson and Dombrandt. The halfbacks, Kerr and Smith. Left wing, Cognesiga. Centres, Porter and Merchant. Right wing, Malins and fullback is Stewart. On the bench to have Dan, Rod, Sinclair, Hill, Willis, Van Portfleet, Ford and Slade. So these two teams met in the Six Nations this year and it was in Cardiff as well. England come out on top in that one, 20-10. Wales didn't have the best Six Nations. England not much better, but just enough to shade it. And they're probably looking for a similar result in this one, but I think both teams are looking for some kind of win to just kickstart them into that World Cup prep. But we have a closer look at the two teams. We'll start with Wales. So, front row, not first choice by any stretch of imagination. Probably Elias is the most likely to be, going to the Rugby World Cup, I think. Domachowski and Azarati, I think they play for Cardiff, I think. They were decent enough in the URC. And I think the way the Welsh squad is at the minute, it's almost like if you can put together a couple of decent performances, you're going to jump over what were established players, I think, and into that Rugby World Cup squad. So I think probably Wales of the Six Nations team probably have the most places still up for grabs before the Rugby World Cup. I think Jenkins and Rowlands both kind of in similar positions in the squad. Maybe Jenkins, it's kind of difficult to say who's ahead of who. I think both of them have realistic chances of going to the Rugby World Cup. I think Chunza is kind of difficult with him because he's been in and out of the squad in the Six Nations, and it's about Gatland doesn't seem to have gotten anywhere near picking even 5 back rows who he thinks, well, my top 3 are in here. I think all the back rows could be in almost any order at the minute. So Jack Morgan gets to be captain. He's got a chance to impress. Wainwright there. I think all 3 of them, you could see them in the Rugby World Cup squad. You'd see any of them being left out as well. You can even see all 3 of them being left out the way things are at the minute. I think Davis at 9. I think 9 is one that's, again, it's hard. They haven't really nailed down who their starting 9 is. And then, you'd expect at this stage, you got this is our starting 9 and these 2 or 3 players are finding out to be the backup, but they haven't got there yet. 10 as well, you got Costello starting, you got Bigger on the bench, and you got other options there as well. And how, I think it's kind of a dress rehearsal for nailing down a spot. I think Rio Dyer he was, I think, one of the better players in a poor Six Nations team. He did well in for the Dragons this year. Obviously, as the Dragons' form fell off,
towards the end of the year. He didn't kind of stand out that much compared to other Welsh players. In the Dragons team, he was still doing well though. Llewellyn and North, like, I'm still not convinced, honestly, by George North in the centres. But I think if he's going to play for Wales, that's probably where he is going to play. And then it's about, they still haven't found a combination really. Like Scotland, I think we're very lucky this year to have found a combination that just works for them so well for the system and just together as a combination and with Russell as well. But, Wales just aren't there. And, I think North's going to go to the World Cup. Llewellyn, I'm not too sure about. Rhys Sammet on the right wing, like the guy, he's got pace to burn. Nobody's denying that, but he still hasn't convinced, I don't think, to say that he is definitely the starting winger for Wales. So I think he has to impress in this game, and if he gets another chance before the Rugby World Cup as well. Lee Halfpenny making his 100th cap appearance. Huge congratulations to him. He's definitely going to go to the Rugby World Cup, but it's whether he's going to be, is he going to be the starting 15? Is he going to be the 23rd guy? Is he just going to be a squad player? He could really be any of those. And then obviously with players like Halfpenny, there's that whole looming, is he going to get a knock and how long he's going to be out for if he does. Onto the bench then. So, the front rowers there, you got Robert, Smith and Thomas. I think all of them coming on looking to impress. I think both starting and finishing front rows, I think are kind of in a similar position. Ben Carter and Plumtree as well, like, being given chances to impress. I think, Carter, there's a long list of back rows jostling for position, but because nothing is really nailed down yet, I feel, he still could actually force his way into that Rugby World Cup squad. Plumtree as well, possible there, especially now, like you've got Alan Wynne-Jones, who I think if he hadn't retired, probably would have gone to the Rugby World Cup, but as a squad player, not as a starter. But him not going now does mean that there is an extra spot there up for grabs. Tomas Williams, big competition for that 9th spot. I think on ability, he should be in the squad, definitely going to the Rugby World Cup, but whether he's going to be the starter or not too sure. Dan Bigger, another player on talent, absolutely should be in that Rugby World Cup squad, but is he going to be the starting 10? It's hard. Like the guy has the talent to be their nail on 10, but when results aren't coming, even if it's not the 10's fault, sometimes the 10 gets blamed. Mason Grady, talented player, but there's a lot of players again jostling for positions. Going to have to have a really good game when he comes on, and also hopefully he will get a start to impress as well. On to the England team then. So we got Genge as captain. He's obviously nailed on going to World Cup. He's going to be a starter. Jamie Blamire and Will Stewart, I think both of them are, jostling for positions. I think second row as well, Ribbons and Martin. I think Ribbons may be in a better position to force his way into the squad. Back row then you got like Ludlam, Pearson and Dombrandt. So I think like Ludlam and Dombrandt kind of, they go in and out of favour a lot. I think both of them will be in, probably make the squad. But whether they're going to be starters in the Rugby World Cup is another thing. Pearson is I think a bit of a bolter to get in there. Danny Kerr, he has the experience, and if you're just picking on experience, he goes through Rugby World Cup, but he is, I think, a little bit vulnerable to somebody outplaying him. I think Van Porfley, who's on the bench, is probably definitely going to go to the Rugby World Cup. Marcus Smith obviously going to go. The debate whether though it's going to be him at 10 and Farrell at 12, or whether Smith is going to be like on the bench is another thing. And then you've also got Ford on the bench there as well. Ford gives England something different compared to, I think, Farrell and Smith as well. So it's going to be, all about which styles are going to be preferred. I think Farrell goes through to the World Cup anyway. And then is it going to be one of Smith and Ford, or are you going to bring both of them? It's kind of hard to say. Cognesiga then, Guy is an absolute beast when he's fit, but seems to get injured a lot. I think he's probably going to either play the house down or get an injury that's going to rule him out of the Rugby World Cup. I think there's no kind of middle ground with that. The centres, then you got Porter and Marchant. I really like Marchant as a 13, but he's one of these ones where he can kind of shoulder a lot of blame when things go wrong, and for that reason he kind of dips in and out of the team. I think Porter is one that he's going to have to impress to force his way into the reckoning. Malin's on the wing. There's a lot of competition in there, but he's definitely going to be able to at least he's going to have a chance to put his hand up, and we'll see how that goes. Freddie Stewart obviously going to go to the Rugby World Cup, going to be the starting 15 for England. Onto the bench then. Dan and Rod, I think, are ones who are going to have to impress to force their way in. Sinclair is nailed on to go to the Rugby World Cup. Probably, he's going to be certainly in the conversation to be a starter, and probably will be a starter. Johnny Hill, I think, goes to the Rugby World Cup if he stays fit. Tom Willis is one of these ones who has the chance to force his way in with the back row that's there. Van Poorvliet, we talked about already, is definitely going to go. Ford, I think, if it's down between him and Smith, I think Smith just goes just because the X factor. If I was picking, I'd probably pick Ford ahead of Smith, but maybe have Smith into the wider squad anyway. Henry Slade, very talented player, but there's a lot of kind of talent there that are not quite there at kind of world-class level. And I think that's the thing with England, is that right now their starting guys there's very few world-class players there, but they're all like still very good players. But then England have that kind of broad depth at that kind of level of very good player, and it's hard to kind of stand out there. And it often comes down, because of that, I think it often comes down to somebody has one or two good games and suddenly they're considered, they're kind of bumped up by the press or by the fans into that kind of world-class level. And then they have a stinker and suddenly there's 10 guys who should have been playing in front of him, and why was he in the team in the first place? And that happens, I think, a lot of English players, because they're similar to kind of, I think, New Zealand, in that there's just a wide depth of talent. But I think New Zealand or England's that where that kind of bulge is for them is kind of a step below New Zealand in terms of raw ability, and sometimes it can make it hard for players to stand out to get selected, because in the Premiership you've got all of those players that are similar level running around looking amazing, but then they step up to test level. Some of them still look amazing, some look absolutely pants. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who puts a hand up, I think, from both teams. In terms of what I think the result is going to be, like Wales, I think, honestly, I've got this feeling about Wales that they're having such a terrible year, and so many players retiring and unrest in the camp, and not it looks like they don't know their best 15 or their best 23 or whatever. But I have a feeling that in the World Cup they're going to make a semi-final for whatever reason, because that's just what Wales do, right? I wish Ireland were able to do that. But in this one, I think England might just shade it. Maybe get a score towards the end to clinch a tight game.